What up, what up? West Coast Triple Play in the house. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, like the video, or shared it, make sure you do so. Yeah. What up, what up? What's cracking, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to another episode of West Coast Triple Play, the only podcast breaking down the biggest headlines, hottest performances, and storylines you care about. From the Lakers to the 49ers and the Angels. I'm your host, Ben. And we're diving into the latest updates across all three squads. Let's get to it, baby. So what's up with them Lakers, bro? Man, that was a tough ending to the Lakers season, right? They went out 4-1 in the first round to the Timberwolves. And the writing was on the wall. The second Anthony Davis went down or got traded. Say what you want about this offense, but defensively, he's the backbone and was the backbone. And once he got traded, Minnesota just kept attacking the paint at will, bro. What? Yep. Luka Doncic gave everything he had, averaging over 30 points a night, but he couldn't do it alone. Austin Reaves really regressed this year after his breakout in 2024. He just couldn't find that same spark, and defensively, teams were hunting him every game, bro. You know, there's already buzz about the Lakers possibly targeting Giannis Antetokounmpo next offseason if he forces his way out of Milwaukee, which I think he will. And of course, we're watching LeBron James, who's expected to return and potentially he's expected to return for his 23rd season. So what does that Laker trade look like to get Giannis Antetokounmpo? If they do, what do you think, guys? So the Lakers will possibly be getting Giannis Antetokounmpo and Gary Trent Jr. The Bucks would be getting a lot. Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith, Shake Milton, and Jackson Hayes. A 2026 first round draft pick and a 2025 second round draft pick. What do you think? What do you guys think? Would you guys make that trade or what? I don't know. Right about now, it sounds good, man. It sounds good. I don't know if I would. I think, yeah. I think I would make that trade. I think Connect, which they barely even used, this season or in the playoffs anyways. I think he would be a good step up, to fill in where Reaves and Hachimura, we're lacking. Yeah, as for JJ Redick, look, for a first-year coach, he showed promise, I believe, anyways. But in the playoffs, he looked overwhelmed. He stuck too long with his lineups. And that's where we're working and didn't adjust defensively. The potential's there. The front office needs to get him more help and more help fast. So let me know. What do you guys think? Would you guys make that trade to bring in Giannis Antetokounmpo or let me know in the comments what you guys would do. What do you think I know for sure we need a big man in the middle. Because I know once Anthony Davis left, it is what it is. We got Luka Doncic, but we needed a big man in the middle. We need a big man to pretty much keep him from driving, bro. I think if we would have kept him out of the paint, we would have possibly been able to make it a little bit more competitive and so forth. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, what about them Angels though, bro? Man, let's move on over to Anaheim. And woo, the Angels are spiraling in the wrong direction, let's say. After a hopeful start to the season, I mean, legit hope, with these guys, with Kyron Paris, Zach Neto stepping up early. The team has now dropped 15 of their last 19 games, bro. Yeah, 15 of the last 19. Most recently a 13-1 blowout loss to the Tigers. That's the kind of loss that makes your hit reset. The pitch is a mess. The pitching is a mess. The rotation ERA is over 5.00, and the bullpen can't hold the lead. Mike Trout, he's going through a slump too, but he's only batting 200. And while he's still showing, flashes of power, he's striking out more than ever. The whispers are starting, has his age finally, caught up to the Angels legend or what, What do you guys think? I know as Major League Baseball players, they all go through slumps. They all, go through a rough patch in their hitting and stuff like that. Sometimes they say, hey, give him time, bro. He'll catch on. He'll pick it up. He'll start to, he'll start to rack them balls, hit them balls out the ballpark, and put the ball in play and get that ERA and everything else up. What am I saying? ERA? His hitting average, anyways. His batting average. My bad. And then Anthony Rendon, bro. For me, I think they should have just cut their losses, bro, already this year and just dump them, bro. This Anthony Rendon, he's, those of you that don't know, he's probably played a quarter of the games that were possible to play in I don't know what his damn contract is, but I know he's been hurt more than he's actually been on the field. And I don't know if you guys saw that post he had posted last year or the year before, I think it was. I'm not sure. I think last year, where he said it was just a job, He's just going just to get the paycheck, bro. He doesn't care about baseball, And I think once he said that, I would have been like, you know what? Bump him, bro. Bump him. Dump him. It's just, you can't have somebody on the team like that just, it's like me going to work, bro. I'm just going to work for a paycheck. Some of us do go to work for just a paycheck, but at the same time, you want to enjoy what you're doing for work, not just get out there and punch the clock, punch in, punch out, and I'm done. You got to be a team player. You got to sell out for your team and so forth. At this point, it's like running a joke. Aside from the occasional spark from Neto or Adele, there's no offensive, consistency. If this keeps up, the front office needs to seriously think about blowing it up. Trade veterans, call up the next wave of prospects, and finally commit to a real rebuild instead of this halfway approach that's gotten them nowhere, in years. My hopes and dreams for at least Mike Trout, bro, is to get him a World Series before his time is over with the Angels. You know what I mean? I love the guy. He's been there. He's been faithful. He's been committed to the team and stuff. And, Artie Moreno, I don't even want to go there with that. He should have sold the team back then when he was, I think he was trying to sell him at one point. But, it is what it is, when you have a awful owner like that, we don't just, I don't jump ship. I'm a loyal fan. been a loyal fan for the Angels since they were the California Angels back in the days. You know, so that's my one team, and that's my only team. You know, but like I said, I had hopes for this team. You know, not World Series hopes, but you know, something fun, something competitive. And right now, they're not even fun to watch, man. You know, it's like, you know, they hold the lead, and then you're like, well, we'll see how long this lasts. You know, they just got to be a little bit more consistent, man. You know, it's tough to watch. You know, it's tough to watch, tough to, you know, get through it. But you know, we'll see what it is. You know, now let's all talk about the Niners. And honestly, this is one of the bright spots in the West Coast sports scene right now. You know, they kicked off the draft week by locking up George Kittle to a 3-year, $52 million extension that kept him in red and gold through 2028. And that makes him the highest paid tight end in the league again. You know, he's still producing 68 catches, 905 yards, 7 touchdowns last year. But more than that, he's the heart and soul of that locker room. You know? And then you've got Brock Purdy. The team is still working on a massive extension, likely in the 50 to 55 million per year range. And both sides want it done before training camp. You know, he's outplayed his rookie deal. And if they can structure it right, the Niners can keep building around him and keep guys like Brandon Ayuk, you know, Warner, and some of these other guys, you know. And now the rookies, you know, man, this draft was about reinforcements, not rebuilding. You know, Michael Williams is expected to start opposite of Bosa. You know, the coaching staff is hyped. You know, they're calling him a chess piece. You know, that can move inside or outside and destruct stuff. You know, imagine that if he's one of those, you know, one of those players that can just come in and make an impact on the defensive line. You know, and then on the opposite side, you're still looking out for Nick Bosa. You know, coming after you. You know, so imagine Nick Bosa and Michael Williams, you know, coming after you. And then you got Alfred Collins, the defensive tackle from Texas. He'll immediately be in the rotation. You know, big guy. You know, big guy is gonna disrupt everything. You know. I think he's a big guy. I forgot how many pounds he is, but yeah, he's going to be a big guy. He's going to be hard to stop. He's going to take on at least 1 or 2 blockers. So that's going to leave a lot of room for Nick Bosa and Michael Williams to make them tackles, make them sacks. And then you got Nick Martin, you know, the linebacker from Washington State. You know, this guy had 140 tackles last year. Could be a special teams star right away, but then can be a big stud to replace where we left, where that void was left. You know, and also, you know, keep an eye on Upton Stout. You know, this is a small corner with the big motor. You know, he might win the slot job. You know, this team believes its Super Bowl window. The Super Bowl window is still open. And with Kittle locked in, Purdy next in the line, and a draft class ready to contribute, they're loading up for another run, baby. You know, we just got to do it. We just got to get in there. We got to do it. We got to see what's going on. But anyways, let me know who you guys see in the NBA Finals. Right now, I don't know who. Man, OKC's just been taking everybody out right now. I think OKC, and I don't know who's on the East Coast. I don't know. Let me know who you guys think. I know for the most part, I think OKC is going to be in there. Who's it? The Cavs are still in it. I think Boston's still in it. Yeah, I'm not sure. But anyways, let me know who you guys think. Who's your team? If your team's in it still, if your team's out. Obviously, if you're watching this podcast, you're a Laker fan. So we out. But anyways, guys, like I said, I'm just praying for a better season next year. Hopefully, all around for all our teams. Lakers, Niners, Angels especially. Yeah, so with that, guys, we're going to wrap it up. This week's West Coast Triple Play. The Lakers need a retool, man. The Angels, they need a wake-up call. It needs to come fast. And the Niners, hey, they're setting the tone for 2025. But yeah, be sure to follow, rate, and subscribe to the channel, guys. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you click that bell notification. That way you're notified every time the new podcast episode comes out. Right now they're releasing every Tuesday. So we'll see if we might change that a little bit. We might go twice a week. Who knows? We'll see what's up. But anyways, like I said, guys, if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you guys subscribe, like, rate the channel. Especially hit those thumbs up notifications, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next week with everything you need to know on your favorite West Coast squads, bro. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. You guys have a good one. We out. Peace. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching.